Hi, welcome back to Studio Insights with me, Ben Ashton. We've got some new intro music by Stephen Fairweather from Stranger Radio, who kindly enough made it for us, and so we sound very professional now, so I'm sure you'll agree. We'll be looking at glazing in this episode on the face, just on the face. Later on there'll be more glazing in the background, but this is just an introduction to it and how to use it in small areas. So enjoy. So, the glazing part of the process. This is what I'm doing. I'm adding glaze medium to these various pigments that I've put on my palette. So I've got Indian yellow there. That's like a madder. And that's ultramarine blue. And that's Van Dyke brown. And all of these I've found have been very good for glazing. They're all transparent pigments. So you can also use them for tints, but they come into their own when you get to this part of the process. You're looking to add saturation to different parts of the canvas.
So what are you reaching for behind you to mix in?
So this is the glaze medium here. This is what I'm using. So come on. I've got it mixed down with the glaze medium. The glaze medium acts as an emulsifier that the pigment is then suspended in. And that means when the light bounces through, it can bounce off the particles in the pigment and then bounce back towards us. What you don't get in tints or just when you just use turpentine is that way that the light moves into the pigment and bounces back towards you. So that's what you're doing essentially when you're applying a glaze to something. Anyway, yeah, let's try and get started on this. See what we can do. So you should see as soon as you start adding this on to the shadowy areas is just starts getting nice and dark. Actually becomes a proper shadowy area. I'm using my finger to flatten it out, which is a bit of that, and so I'm just mixing various bits together.
You might want to be a bit more specific.
Oh right, yeah. The various colours, so they're not just straight colours, I'm mixing them together.
So in this instance, the shadow is made up of...
Well, the thing is, all those pigments that I've laid out, you should be able to produce any colour you like. That's probably why I use them. There we go. And already you can see that shadow on the side of the face is becoming more depthy. And I think there's some red in the shadow bouncing off the top here.
Where?
Bouncing off the top. Yeah. So there's the red that's coming in to the underside. Of the chin and the neck. Now, you don't have to get it right in one there, but when it comes to glazing, but it's helpful to get as far as you can because you can easily burn through a glazing layer with the next layer of glaze that you put on, which can be really very frustrating. It's interesting trying to figure out exactly what colour some of these shadows are. Something you have to really ask yourself when you're doing this bit. So, yeah, I've taken to working, if I'm working on canvas, in fact I've taken to working on canvas more than working on panel now. I used to prefer working on panel, I like working on a hard surface because of all of this applying and then using my finger to remove the paint, right? So I quite like to have a hard surface. So this is canvas, and it's been stretched over panel, and that's how I prefer to do it right now. It's not ideal. I mean, really and truly, you would like canvas over a stretcher. That's what it's supposed to be on, and then if it loses its tautness, you can just wet the back and stretch it back up again. It's just easier. It's not as easy if it's on panel. And then once that's once I've finished it and it's ready to put away, what I've done is I roll them on that tube. And all these ones are going to go to Moscow, so I just take them off these panels and roll them, and then I'll have to create stretchers for them later on down the road, and then they're off to get framed. So yeah, that's one way that I've chosen to work to limit the amount of space I'm taking up in the studio. I've also taken to working on an easel, and this is an easel that I made a long time ago when I was at Newcastle studying, and I made it because I was building a scene. I think it was a scene based on Vermeer's Allegory of Painting that I set up as a camera obscura projection. So I actually built the scene, my version of the scene, and I set up a periscopic camera obscura looking at it, and then people could look into the camera obscura and see the projection. That's what I did. And so this easel was part of the scene, and I've kept it ever since. But it's actually very useful to work on. So it's an old sort of Dutch style easel. Yeah, made a small model of it as well. Basically, it means that I can use the walls to hang the work instead of working on one of the walls, which is, you know, usually how people tend to work in their studios. And it's probably one way that I prefer to work, but that's just the way life is. And it means that I can use everything as storage space behind the easel as well. So, you know, kills two birds with one stone.
So what sort of things are you storing down here?
Oh, sorts of dreadful shit. All my paint, past palettes, hair dryers, priming stuff, loads of stuff, all sorts of junk. I try and clear it out quite regularly, but it still seems to come back to the same sort of disorganised mess. Right, so what I've done is I put a sort of dark glaze over the eyes, and I was going to show you what you can use the cotton wool bud for. And so underneath here is some white paint. It was a bit too bright, so what you can do is you can go over that spot and just pick it back out again. And then also get a little bit of this as well in the eye as well. Make them a bit brighter, but then keeping the darks around the edge. So that's a good use of the impasto paint underneath, just to be able to pick that back out again. So the similar thing can be done with the mouth. You could put a dark layer in, like so. Just create that bit, the interior of the mouth. Like that. That's sort of Van Dyke brown that's going in there. And then if you want to suggest the fact that it's got teeth behind there, you can just bring in the cotton wool bud and suggest the teeth. There. Okay, so I'm doing parts of the hair now. As you can see, a lot of this has got a lot darker. I'll pick up or out some highlights after this layer, and do a bit more wet into wet over the top. But basically what we're doing is bringing it as dark as it's going to be now. So that's what we're doing. But yeah, you can use it to get nuance in the hair with it. So you can bring it into there, and then, as always, it's gone a bit too much. You can just bring out those follicles again, the ends of each one, with a cotton wool bud like that. Okay, so I'm just touching up a few highlights on this after I've glazed it back, just to pop it up again, you know, because otherwise it's just going to, after glazing, it tends to lose some of its shape because of all these transparent glazes going over the top of it. So it's pretty much where I want it to be now. You can see that I've gone into these hues here, they become more saturated, same with the lips. Shadows have got deeper. If you view it probably in the context of the painting, you can see that the shadows there are really quite muted. That's going to be the next bit. They'll be having this similar sort of process be done down here, and it will just become more vibrant as a result. Yeah, that's it. That's glazing.